and welcome to Made from Humans, How Reality Becomes TV. I'm your host, Andy Dennert, the creator of Reality Blurred and a writer who believes in the power of true stories. Every week I'll take you behind the scenes of reality TV and my writing about it. And every week my cat will step on the things as I'm doing them. Hello, little kid. On this week's episode, the addictive, voyeuristic show Couples Therapy and what I learned from its directors about how it works to keep things as real as possible, and also not create villains on reality TV, really. Also, I have my usual recommendations, and stick around to the end for some therapeutic relationship and life advice from Couples Therapy star Dr. Orna Gromit. Welcome, good to be with you again. Quick update on our competition between Victoria and New South Wales listeners in Australia, which is something that didn't exist until I told you about it last week, and now I'm creating an artificial competition between two different places in Australia just for kicks. The update is that there's been no change. Victoria is still slightly ahead of New South Wales. However, in case it helps you recruit friends or try to get more people to listen, New South Wales is now tied with listeners in Ontario, Canada. So I don't know if there's a bigger beef between Canada and Australia versus New South Wales and Victoria. Maybe there's no beefs at all, and I'm just creating them like a really terrible reality TV producer. And for that, I apologize. Mostly, though, just wanted to thank you for listening from wherever you're listening from. And also, though I'm joking about this, it is really great if you tell friends, family, coworkers, strangers on the street about this podcast, about my work. It really is helpful. It also introduces people to things that they might not have heard before, and things, you obviously know your friends and colleagues and family members' tastes, and you can tell them about cool stuff. I am grateful for everyone who has introduced their friends, family to Reality Blurred. If you were introduced to my work, to this podcast, via a friend or a colleague or family member, please thank them for me. And maybe pass along that favor. Or if you haven't, if you discovered it on your own, tell everyone how amazing you are at discovering cool stuff on the internet, and share Reality Blurred and Made from Humans with them. Because one of the things that they will find is great, exciting features like this first department, Curtain Pull, in which I take a quick peek behind the scenes of a show. Today's theme across the episode is couples therapy, so we're going to talk briefly about couples therapy's cameras. If you don't know couples therapy, it is a show where we watch a therapist in therapy with a couple. I think once, maybe twice, there's been a polycule or three people on the couch, but it's nearly always two people, and they go through hour-long therapy sessions weekly for 18 to 20 weeks. We'll talk about that more in a moment. But when they're in that office, you do not see camera operators. You do not see boom mics. You don't see, there's no sign of a production anywhere. So how are they filming this? Well, it's actually very similar to the Big Brother house. The Big Brother house, as you may know, is a soundstage in Los Angeles. It is covered and lined with mirrors on all the walls. And behind those mirrors are camera operators moving around and filming the people on the other side of the mirrors. That's also how this works on couples therapy, except the brilliance of the set design is that it's not just an office surrounded with mirrors, which would make it feel like a dance studio or something. And I don't know, I don't really want to be staring at my own face while I'm in therapy, or often, I guess. This is not my preferred mode of like sitting and thinking and relaxing or talking is seeing, 15 reflections of myself all around a room. So the way they've done this is cleverly concealed the camera operators behind glass that is at a 45-degree angle. This is most clearly visible behind Dr. Orna herself. You will see her books, and there's shelves of books, and then there's shelves of books up higher, and then there's a kind of shelf with a few decorative objects on them. It's like a little, looks like a little gold ball or something, just kind of generic objects. That is actually the two-way piece of glass, or one-way, or whatever you would call it. Basically at an angle, so it's reflecting what's below it, and the camera operator can film through it, but we don't see a mirror. The people sitting in the office don't see a mirror. They just see this shelf-looking thing. This is actually an effect that it's a little harder to describe in this very visual meeting of podcasting, but it's an effect that you have probably seen used maybe in magic tricks. I used to have a little bank when I was a kid that was like a little cube, and you would drop a coin into it and you would hear it clatter in, but it would just disappear. And it, would sort of blow my friends' minds, I guess. And it was when I showed it to them, and I was always amazed by it. And basically all that was a version of this effect, which was a 45-degree angle mirror reflecting the bottom end of the box and sort of creating a full image out of that. So I guess this is a version of that, except that was concealing coins. This is concealing camera operators. So take a look. You'll see these, again, kind of little windows. I think there's also a mirror or two kind of off to the side. So you can also notice where there will be other angles that camera operators can come in from or not come in. They are invisible, again, to the people sitting there. So very, very similar to what other shows use. It's just that they do not want the mechanisms of the production to be visible to people so that they get as an authentic experience as possible. So let's just roll right into our main segment, Behind the Scenes, where I share details about how reality TV shows are produced. So we're talking couples therapy here, and of course the cameras are a piece of that. I love the show. I recommend it. I've recommended it here before. I think it is one of the best reality TV shows on today, if not over the past 26 years. It is just absolutely engrossing. I am riveted by watching people. I watched a bunch of the seasons again, and even though I knew some of the arcs, it was still fascinating to watch because it's just really amazing to sit with people as they talk about problems and then have someone help them solve them. I think we're really used to, or I'm really used to, seeing a lot of conflict on reality TV and a kind of interpersonal conflict, but to see someone actually be there as a third party and observe that dynamic and sort of try to help them in that dynamic. Like, couples therapy isn't about sort of like, repairing individuals or helping them like sort of sort through their shit. It's like about we're fixing this relationship, the communication, the other problems that might be there, or the challenges, I guess. Don't necessarily want to call them problems. So just a wonderful show. It also really resists summary. Like, it's not a show I could recap. I mean, I guess I could, but I don't feel like I want to. And it's also like, I don't want to like miss something because it's already super condensed. So people on couples therapy, and here's some fun behind the scenes for you. First of all, when they're cast for this show, they might apply for it because they know they need couples therapy. They might, but not be able to afford it. They might have seen the show. I interviewed directors Yemisi Brooks and Kim Roberts about the show, and they shared a lot of interesting insight into how it was produced, from the very little details to their overall philosophy. Both said that there are people who come on the show who don't have any experience with it and still don't know about it, even in season 5, which is amazing to me. And then others come in knowing Dr. Orna and, knowing Dr. Orna's dog, Nico, who is probably the real star of the show or the breakout star of the show. So if you haven't watched for anything else that I've mentioned, maybe tune in just for Nico, who's really cute and will mostly just hang out, but sometimes comes over as like a little bit of a cute therapy dog moment, I guess. Every season follows 4 couples who go to therapy weekly for an hour-long session with Dr. Orna, and they do that for about 22 weeks. And during that time, they are in usually 18 to 20 sessions. There's a fewer sessions because there might be a week or two off for holidays or crew break or whatever, depending upon the schedule. But they are coming weekly, just like someone would in normal therapy. And I say that because in reality TV, we see so many shows really condensing their timelines to try to save a lot of money and save money and budget and like really try to get things done. I've been recapping 24 and 24 Last Chef Standing, a show that is kind of brilliant in that it films the entire thing in 24 hours and then it's done with an entire season of television. And it's exhausting for all the people competing and the hosts, and I'm sure the crew and everyone else, but it's, I don't know if you can get much faster than that. Therapy obviously doesn't work like that. You couldn't just sit with someone for 8 hours and to fix them and all of their problems in that moment. You probably can't really do it fully in 22 weeks either. Although one of the real joys of the show is watching how people do change, do evolve their thinking, their behavior. Sometimes they slip back into old patterns. Sometimes they're really impressively finding their way through things and really working on themselves, working on the relationship, working on communication. And you can see it. And it is super exciting to watch that evolution. That's not every couple, but it's a lot of them. When they cast people, I think that's what I was talking about was casting. Yes. So when they cast, they actually narrow down the list of people, and then they actually have them sit with another couples therapist to basically, I guess, test them essentially to see how open they are to this process, to see how it works. But they're also not letting them sit down with Dr. Orna yet. So if they are cast and sit, and become Dr. Orna's patients for the purpose of the show, they will not have met her before. It's not like they met her in a conference room and, felt like they were part of the casting process. And that's, I think, the most significant and interesting thing about the way the show is produced is how it tries to erase all of the production from the participants. They obviously know they're on TV. This is not the Truman Show. They're not being lied to or deceived. They've all opted in to not only obviously couples therapy, but to couples therapy, the TV show. They get it. They know that. They are mic'd before they walk in to the office, but the way the production is set up is that when the participants go into the office, they open a door, there's a hallway, there's doors in there. They open the door to Dr. Warner's office. There's a little waiting room. They can flip through magazines or sit down and they sit in these chairs and talk to each other. And then she opens the door and lets them in. They are not seeing producers, camera operators, people with mics. If you've ever seen like just a behind the scenes moment or flash during a fight or whatever of Real Housewives or any other show, The Challenge, you see that there's a ton of production people around. And of course, the behind the scenes of Survivor pictures are always particularly shocking because it's like two people standing on a beautiful beach in the middle of Fiji or wherever that season was. And if you back out, there's, four people at least, two camera operators, two sound people holding giant boom mics, maybe producers, maybe more cameras. And it's just wild to think that that's the participants' experience. Not so here. So they really do get the sense that they're just going into an office, sitting down, having an hour's worth of therapy and leaving. It's not like they are going to a set and, sitting in a green room and then going around the corner and past all the cameras. They never see any of that apparatus. One question I had for the directors was how they managed to do that despite the fact that there's B-roll footage of the couples at home interacting with each other that's kind of cut in and spliced into the episodes. What I thought was watching it was like, so we see a couple talking and maybe they're talking about parenting a kid. And then we cut to seeing them with the kid and they're happy and doing a really good job. And it's like, well, of course, if you send a camera to their house and they're with their kid, they're going to be on their best behavior. So is that affecting the therapy? The answer is no, hopefully. I guess I don't know 100% for sure, but they don't film any of that until the very end of production and the end of their therapy time. So there might be a session or two left, but they're scheduling time to go to the couple's homes or follow them around in their daily lives. And the directors talk to me about how they do this and work with the couples to try to do things that they would normally be doing. They're not setting up all these fake scenes. So it's just like, yeah, we're just going to come over and film you, like you normally would, like making breakfast and heading out for work. And that's it. So you get a little bit of that kind of footage. So obviously that interjects production into their lives. But by then they've been working with Dr. Orna for months and have, again, not seen a camera the entire time. Yemisi is the producer who has the most interaction with the couples. She greets them and outside the offices, and then also is the one who coordinates the B-roll footage at the end of the season. So again, they do have some contact with production. It's not like a completely, totally just, what am I trying to, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like, I want to say transparent, but that's not even it. It's just like invisible. There we go. The word invisible. It's not a completely invisible process, but I really am impressed about how much they do to make this an authentic experience for these couples, to really just sit with a therapist and talk through things and try to work on their lives, their communication, their relationship with each other. That's impressive. And it is so fascinating to watch. I will say watching it, like, there's sometimes when it's just like, I am infuriated at someone for the way that they're treating their partner, the things that they're saying, the way they're being manipulative. There's been people on the show who just like, it's like you can immediately tell it's like they're the problem. That's what I want to do. And what struck me though is, watching the show, like eventually for many of them, we start to understand at least why they're that way. They come to that conclusion or they something is revealed during therapy and we try to get a little bit of empathy and understanding. That doesn't always necessarily mean they transform completely into a brand new person who is not as annoying or obnoxious as they were. But what I thought was really fascinating about the way the show is edited is that they actually are really trying to not make us like, hate people. One couple's therapy is edited. The editors, the directors, Kim Roberts really handles on this season 5, the editing and post production work in Los Angeles. What they have to do is take those 18 to 20 weeks of therapy, so 18 to 20 hours of footage, and then condense that into 9 half-hour episodes, which each of which cover 4 different couples, plus time with Dr. Orna and her advisor slash therapist. And then also sometimes we see her with her peer group of other therapists all talking about what we've been seeing. So it's a lot of material in a really short episode. So they are really cutting down what's happening. So I asked about this, like, how do you even approach that? Something Kim Roberts said that I thought was really interesting was that in therapy, people repeat themselves a lot, and there's a lot of there's a lot of repetition, he says, repeating himself immediately after he just repeated himself. So they can obviously just figure out like, oh, this is, here's the one time we'll show them talking about this. We don't need to, every time that comes up, we don't have to show that. They also obviously kind of cut away in the middle of conversations, in the middle of sessions. And so I asked about cutting and how they're doing that. And Kim Roberts said that they basically are always trying to like leave us on a question, let us kind of get a sense of, what might be unresolved, what needs to be resolved, how that can be explored in the future. And on some level, they're also trying to just mirror Dr. Orna's process and let us understand sort of how she's thinking. Let me quote Kim briefly. So in our interview, she said, "There's a lot of reality shows where they try to turn this one into a villain and this one into a whatever. That's not what we're trying to do at all. We're trying to do the opposite. In fact, we're trying to create empathy over time. I love it when your first impression of somebody completely transforms over the season. And I think the base of that is just recognizing that these people are being so vulnerable and letting you into their intimate problems with their partner." I really appreciate that. She even went on to say like how much she appreciates that, the show, the production company, Showtime, all let the team really work toward that. It's not about trying to create fake drama. During the interview, Yemisi also talked about how therapy has kind of changed over time on the show. I had sort of observed to them that it felt like this season started a little more aggressively, like immediately. It just felt like the couples were kind of like, and it's especially the couple that they show first is like kind of fighting about politics. And that's a little like, it was a little much for me at first, although that quickly kind of fades. And here's what Yemisi said, quote, "Orna's thesis is that because she's more of a known figure, there's some kind of challenge transference going on or some identification that they're like, they being the couples, we know what we're here to do. We're sitting down on the sofa. Let's just go." And this is Yemisi again. "It was amazing to me. There wasn't a big warm up period. It was like, let me tell you everything from quite early on, certainly for season 5A, the one that is airing right now. It was really interesting to watch that." So yeah, people are ready to kind of jump in. And so maybe couples therapy is actually helping couples and letting them understand that they can just dive right into their problems. And, it's for me, it's really interesting because sometimes I can see patterns in my own behavior in the people in these relationships. And then I'm like, oh shit, do I do this? Like I can ask my husband, am I doing that? Oh my gosh, that's awful. Or I can see like, oh yeah, that's why I might do something like that. So I do find it really instructive and interesting. And again, really fascinating to watch how they're able to go through that transformation despite ultimately doing this for a TV show. But as you can see, that's because the TV show is constructed in a way that really tries to help and have success rather than basically betray everyone. Okay, on to recommendations where I share things that are bringing joy and entertainment into my life. First up is an episode of an old show, The Chris Gethard Show, Season 2, Episode 9. I will link it in the show notes or episode description of your podcast app. So go click and watch that if you haven't already. It's a half-hour talk show. I will say that it's structured like a mystery. The host is trying to get his celebrity guests to figure something out and giving clues along the way so we can kind of play along. I'm not going to say anything more about it because if you've seen it, you know, and if you haven't, I don't want to spoil any kind of part of this mystery. After you've watched it, then read the essay that I will link to, or the story that I'll link to, by my friend and colleague Liz Shannon Miller, who had an interview about the creation of that episode. I can't say anything more again without spoiling it, but the combination of just that episode is fantastic by itself, and then it's extremely fascinating to read that behind the scenes look at it. So if you've already seen it, just jump into Liz's piece. I think you'll really enjoy it. My next recommendation is getting tickets for shows like Tournament of Champions. Food Network's Tournament of Champions All-Star Christmas is actually filming right now, or finishing up filming as I publish this episode. It basically filmed its entire season straddling Memorial Day weekend. It's really early for a Christmas show, though that's pretty popular, or pretty typical in holiday programming. It's filmed in the spring or summer, and people have to basically get into the holiday spirit, even though it's hundreds of degrees outside, wherever they might be. Anyway, I will link to the site where you can actually get tickets for Tournament of Champions. Obviously too late for All-Star Christmas right now, but for the main show, they film in Northern California, and you can just go for free and watch, and it's an incredible experience. I know that because I shared information about how to go, and one of Reality Blurred's readers, Melissa, went and has been in the audience for Tournament of Champions and TOC All-Star Christmas's first season last year, and has given us some wonderful behind-the-scenes reports about how fun it is, from Guy Fieri walking over with, some unused food and letting the audience sample it, to, seeing some of the competitors just come over and talk to the audience members or just acknowledge them outside, and just how warm and friendly and great it is, and never mind being able to watch that competition unfold in front of them. So if you can go see TOC, go see that. Also, the site that I'll link to has tickets for other shows too. So it's kind of amazing if you are in one of these places to be able to see how television is produced and participate in that, and maybe end up on TV yourself, like Melissa has. Okay, that's everything for today. Thanks so much for listening. Send me your feedback, questions, and thoughts. And if you're in a 5-star mood, please tap those in your podcast app. Your ratings and reviews really do help me out, in addition to the aforementioned sharing with friends and family and strangers. Our theme song is Cheery Monday by Kevin MacLeod, and this episode is by me, Andy Dennert, and is copyright 2026 by Reality Blurred LLC, which is also me. You can find me at realityblurred.com and andydennert.com. I'll leave you today with life advice from reality TV, this time from Couples Therapy star Dr. Orna Goralnik, who's talking here about active listening in a clip that the show put together, and I will also link to if you'd like to watch the full thing with examples from the couples. But here is just a really good sense of why active listening might be useful.
Active listening is not a simple thing. It's a profound thing to both offer to another person, but also to go through as a listener. It's really trying to understand what another person is saying on their own terms. to listen through empathy, through curiosity, in a way creating what poets call a negative space within the listener. You don't approach the other person as if you know, but you approach the other person as if you don't know, and you're willing to learn something new.